All right, we are live. Welcome, welcome everyone back to our April 20th, 2021 regularly scheduled Windsor Unified School District Board meeting. It is 6:37. We are just coming back into open session from closed session. Thank you to everyone who waited. We appreciate your patience as we came back a little bit later than expected. We will go ahead and start with a roll call.
Stephanie Ahmad.
Here.
Rich Carnation.
Here.
Bill Adams.
Here.
Eric Heitz.
Here.
Malinali Lopez.
Here.
Ava Hamelberg.
Here.
And we will go on to a flag salute led by Trustee Heitz.
Okay, thank you all for joining tonight. At this time, if you're able, please stand and salute the flag. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. All right, do we have a report out of closed session? We do not.
We do not.
Okay. Item 3.1, adjustments to the agenda. I believe all of the adjustments are reflected in the agenda. Am I correct? All right.
Jen, are they all reflected? Yes.
Okay, great. So no adjustments. Then item 3.2, principals report, Brian Williams, Windsor Middle School, soon to be Windsor High School.
You know what, President Ahmad, Stephanie, I think there is an adjustment because it's still not showing up properly. My report is going to go after Ava's, and it's still showing that it's down below, but I know Jen has moved it.
I see it as 3.5.
Oh, it's there now. I'm sorry. I had to refresh my screen.
Okay, no worries. All right. Principal Williams, take it away.
Thank you. Jen, are you going to put up the presentation?
Brian, I don't normally do other people's presentations, just Ava's, because I'm watching public comment on YouTube.
Okay.
And that kind of thing. Do you need, if you need me to, I can, but if you can do
No
it,
problem.
that would be
I have it ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
So good evening. Thank you, President Ahmad, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Decker, and Cabinet for inviting me here tonight. So we'll go ahead and Mr. Decker, if you give me a thumbs up if you're looking at the board presentation. Okay, good. Thank you. So yes, quite the year. And this year really caused us to kind of reflect on some of the big questions about what it means for teaching and learning. And so we started off the year really focused on the concept of outreach and how we can possibly make the most connections with our students since they are only going to be virtual. So we started with as part of our positive behavior intervention support program, asking teachers to recognize students for academic achievement, but also any kind of improvement. And we really meant any kind of improvement. We wanted to make that connection and we wanted to be able to provide a positive reward and incentive for students to keep engaged. And so we would receive those names, we would mention them in the morning announcements, and our student advisors would go drop them off at their houses. And so we got a lot of positive feedback from the students that they appreciated getting those recognitions. The other part of it was really is how are we going to build community when everyone is so scattered about. And so we looked at kind of COVID safe events that we could do. Normally for Halloween, we would have put on a big costume dance, but we did our drive-through trunk or treat. And we want to thank Chicano Trucking for coming and bringing their cars, and it made it a really special event. And this served not just Windsor Middle School, but we pretty much had a line all the way through the town of Windsor, and the town really appreciated that they had some place to take their kids on that night. Also, as we're coming back, engaging with our local community, and we want to thank the Windsor Fire Department for coming in and showing their support as kids came back on campus. And then, kind of how the ongoing battle is with student engagement. It's ask the question of what would school look like if you had a choice to come or not. School is compulsory, but in this case, we really had to get students to want to participate. So in terms of our engagement is really focusing on that Windsor Pride, and trying to make it a place where students want to come to school. And then once they're in class, do the types of activities that really engage them, those discussions, that group work, things that really can't be done well over Zoom, but then also trying to find a way to engage those students that are remaining on distance learning as well. Finding those COVID safe PE activities, keeping them 6 feet apart and having their individualized equipment, but being able to still motivate them and still keep them engaged. And then the last piece is that, even though we're all trying to figure out how the best way to operate this year, but still ensure that we're moving forward as a school and as educators. So during this year, we also were able to put together a brand new makerspace and start filling it with equipment and supplies. And this is another one of our great bond projects that provided this opportunity. And this will be a great space for students to be able to work on engineering, robotics, as well as the Intro to Professional Theater program to be able to have a place to do their set design. We also worked with our staff to do MOU to finally get a 7-period schedule that allows for some students to have 2 electives, but we were able to find a way to do it where it was no additional cost to the district. So we're kind of trying to do the best of all possible worlds and provide opportunities, particularly for our students with special needs, to be able to have a learning center and an elective. So this schedule will provide that, and we look forward to implementing it next year. And then the last piece, we received the school climate grant. And so we were one of, so each area had 1 elementary, 1 middle school, and 1 high school. And so there were 7 geographic areas. So we were one of 7 middle schools in California who were chosen to receive this grant. And I look forward to meeting with Amy Ziegler and developing this and handing it off to her to be able to implement this next year. All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
No questions, just thank you for the presentation and great job. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Now we are moving on to item 3.3, which is public comment on open session items. We are starting our live public comment. So we have some people who are here to make public comment there, but we are also in this meeting, since it's our first time doing it live, I will still be reading some public comments. So we'll start with those that are here live. Rich Carnation will be doing timekeeping. 3 minutes is the time allotted per public comment. And so who do we have first? If Jen, if you could help me keep track and maybe call out who is going first.
I believe we have Ms. Schiff.
Okay.
Hello, good evening. My name is Maria Schiff, and thank you so much for the opportunity of having public comments live. That really, it's really important for us to feel heard, and I think that this is great, so thank you so much. I also want to acknowledge and give a huge thanks to all the assistants and monitors who are helping with the drop off and pick up in the morning. We're going to Maddie Washburn, and it's amazing how the staff is working and they're so organized. Thank you to Mrs. Stern. I think that my biggest concern was about following up Mr. Decker's letter from yesterday about the 3 feet distance, so we can have more kids in schools going full time, 5 days a week. We're still going with the 2 cohorts, and kind of my questions are about timeline. We're mid-April, almost May. What are the expectations that at least we can have the kids full-time during the last month of school? And what are the plans for summer to kind of compensate for the learning loss? And I don't know how much time I have, but that's what I have for now. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity to let us speak live. Thank you.
Thank you. Who do we have next?
Willow Saunders.
All right, Willow, when you're ready.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, all right, sorry, I'm walking around managing children. Hello, I have a high school senior and a middle school 8th grader in the Windsor School District, and we have been anxious to get back to school, and we're glad that we're one of the first schools in Sonoma County to do that. We're very thankful for that, and it's going well for my middle schooler. He's just so happy every time he gets to go to school. He's just loves it, and we too are anxiously awaiting a timeline of when it can continue. I wanted to give some feedback about what it's like for my high schooler and most of his friends. He's able to go, he's in the pre-med corps at Windsor High School. He is a senior. He has been in pre-med. This will be his 2nd year. He was in exercise science before that. And he is going on Tuesday mornings from 8 to 11:30. The first week, there were 3 other students. He was one of 4 in his classroom. The second and third week, he is one of 2 students in his classroom. This morning, we had a full-out blowout, as a parent and teen can only do. He did not want to go to school. He did not see any point in going to school. He said, the teachers it's like I'm just sitting there watching the teachers teach to Zoom. It is absolutely pointless. And so the reality that I don't know really what it is, if parents just aren't making their kids go to school. I don't know how many students are supposed to be in the classroom, but the reality is with the 3 feet distance, they should all be back every day. And that's what I want to say is if there were other students, the whole reason about going to school instead of Zoom school, well, there's a million reasons, but is the community. I heard Mr. Williams talking about the community earlier, trying to form community, and I respect and honor that, but there's really no way to do it except the best way is in person, and there's no reason that we can't be doing that for his last month as a high school. My other son's last month of an 8th grader, they both kind of lost out on their top of the line years. And I just really want to say there's only 1 kid in the class. I mean, if you doubled that, there would be 4 kids. So like, I just cannot, I understand the whole double desk thing and all that. I mean, I'm willing to buy some desks, like just let me know. And the kids can go back to school. And if there are other kids there, he will go. And he won't, and also maybe like, I don't know, make them make a commitment. Like once we go back, like say, is your kid coming to school in person or are they Zooming? Not like they get to decide every day whether or not they're showing up or opening their phone at 2 minutes to 8 a.m. with their cameras off.
Thank you, Willow. It's I gave you a little extra because of the kids.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know how much time. I've never done this before, so I'm sorry.
It's all good.
You did great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Willow. All right. Who is next, Jen?
Samantha Jacobs.
All right. Samantha, are you here? Or am I reading this one?
She's here. She's just on mute.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can find you. Oh, Samantha, can you hear me? It's your turn for public comment.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm
great.
sorry.
No worries. You have 3
I
minutes
didn't
when you're ready.
necessarily Okay, I didn't necessarily have anything in particular planned to say, but I just wanted to attend and hear what was going on. But I guess I would, counter what the last speaker had to say is we're not ready to come back for a variety of reasons. And I'm concerned about the 3 feet rule and just the dynamics of changing things so rapidly in following a year where we had so little movement. I'm looking forward to getting back to things, but for our family, not yet in-person school. And I feel like the bar or the things are changing week by week, and the teachers are exhausted, the students are tired. And when you're talking about educating children, a big piece of it is having consistency and schedule and routine. And I just can't imagine changing things again. So I guess it's a little bit of a counter to the last speaker.
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else who is speaking live?
We should have Amy Head if she was able to join.
Amy Head, are you here?
No.
She is not here. Okay, then I will go ahead and read her comment. I don't know that I made this announcement, but we are, as a board, we don't respond to public comment on open session items. So that's why we're just listening, but not responding. I think I'm going to go ahead and read Amy Head's public comment, which I am pulling up.
You want me to time you? Just kidding.
Sure, Rich.
Just kidding.
Whatever you'd like to do. I will go ahead. I am a parent of a Brooks third grader. I'm sure you have heard over and over that our children have suffered a tremendous amount of stress, loss, heartache, and pure suffering over the last year plus. We appreciate the fact that we have been back to school now for a few weeks, but it's not enough. Let our kids go back full time. The time is now. Follow the science and the CDC guidelines. Please hear our voices and help our children back to school. Help get our children back to school. No more screens. They have suffered enough. Thank you for your time, Amy and Doyle Head. I have 2 more public comments. One from Michelle Cole and the other from Andrea Valderrama. Is that correct, Jen? Are there any more in addition to those?
It is. No, that's all I've got.
Okay, then I will read these 2 now. So first, from Michelle Cole. As a parent of a first grader attending Maddie Washburn, I witnessed firsthand the suffering our children have gone through by not being able to attend school. Now they have been allowed to return in limited capacity, and it is still hurting them. Allowing our kids to return full-time by adapting the 3 feet rule that the state and CDC have approved is what our children deserve. No more screens. Let them learn in person. Stop punishing our kids. Thank you for your time, Michelle Cole. And then our last public comment is from Andrea Valderrama, and I will go ahead and read that now. Hi all, my name is Andrea, and I'm advocating for Windsor Unified students that want to return to in-person education as soon as possible. For all of your senior students that deserve the last month of their senior year to be in person, give them the last month of their senior year to be on campus with their teachers and peers. Show them you care to make it happen. They need this, and you should be offering this as a choice. Let your students have a choice whether or not to return in person. All teachers and staff have had the opportunity to get vaccinated. Our county is open, meaning that we can go to the movies, eat indoors, go to gyms, fly on planes, play sports, go to amusement parks, and now attend concerts. But our children, your students, cannot go to school full time. This is as good as it gets. What more does your district need to prove that students can return to the classrooms? What more should we do as parents to convince your district to return to campus and provide in-person instruction or education? Napa High School has over 600 students and has been back full-time since October. Marin High School has returned full-time as of 2 weeks ago. Why not call and see what their schools are doing? Why reinvent the wheel? So many local districts have adopted the 3-foot guideline that the CDC, the state, and our county health officer have recommended. Under what guidelines is your district following, and why? SB 98 states that you are offering in-person instruction to the greatest extent possible. I ask the school board and Windsor staff, have you provided in-person instruction to the greatest extent possible? Is the current hybrid plan in place the very best you can do? Or what can you offer more for your Windsor students? Can you do more for the very students that you represent? I think you can and you should. Get your students back in the classroom and give them the last month. Sonoma County students are already behind academically and will continue to fall behind unless you get them back to the classrooms. Remember, education is not a privilege, it's a human right. Education is a human right means the right to education is legally guaranteed for all without any discrimination. Our children, your students, have a right to in-person education. Lastly, would like to close with a quote from Malcolm X, who states, "Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Today is the day to make that change. Please do it for your students by adopting the 3-foot guidelines and offer more days of in-person education." Thank you for your time. Okay, thank you, Andrea. I think that is our last public comment on open session items. So we will move on to item 3.4.
Stephanie, just because this is our first time, usually in many places when you do this, once the public comments are done, the individuals who gave public comment would then be removed from this part of the meeting and then watch it wherever it's at.
Yes.
Just don't want people to think like we're kicking them out because they gave public comment. It's some bad reason.
Yeah, no, it's just the process. Yeah, thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Can I just say that they can still follow along on the Windsor Unified School District YouTube page?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you. All right, so now we will move on to our report from our student board member, Ava Hamelberg. Ava, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Let's start my report for this month. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so a little update from the students I've talked to. In between meetings, I spoke to our middle school level students. So the focus of this presentation is a little more on them because I did get to actually talk to them, which was nice. Just from the written updates I've gotten from the high schoolers, a lot of them are worried about the end of year exams. This is also, I've noticed, less focused on finals and more on the AP exams. For those who are following, the College Board has been changing the rules and what the exams are going to look like, which of course is not anything the district can control, but just something to be aware of is that there is a lot of nervousness and anxiety about that just because a lot of people aren't aware of what to expect. And then a big emphasis that a lot of students have been making sure to get across is that they understand that hybrid learning has been not only a challenge for us as students, but that the teachers are learning how to teach a completely new way again, and that any criticisms they have, they're trying to be very conscientious of the fact that the teachers are learning too. Next slide, please. So the in-person students, I got an overwhelmingly positive response from them. There was, as I mentioned at our last meeting, a lower amount of students planning on returning than I at least expected. A lot of people saying that they had gotten used to it at home and that they kind of wanted to maintain that for the rest of the school year. But the students who did go in person, and a lot of the middle schoolers I spoke to did choose to go in person, very much enjoyed it. They said that it did take them a little time to adjust. It was really fun, actually. The 6th graders and the freshmen were all sharing stories about how they got lost on their first day on campus, but that they found people they knew from Zoom who helped them find their classrooms, and that they're really liking talking to people, actually seeing the people that they've gotten to know over Zoom. And a lot of the people, both in person and on distance, are sharing that they feel they have a lighter workload and that the actual classroom is being used more productively, which is nice. Next slide, please. So the students on distance learning, they say they are feeling basically the way they were before. There are mixed feelings about some schools are having less class time, some are having more. There was really no average consensus about any of this, which can be expected when things change. Something that they did share, and this is something that both in-person and distance learning people felt, was that when they're on Zoom, there are expected technical difficulties. A teacher wearing a mask, it can sometimes be hard to pick up on the microphone. And then it's also hard where sometimes a teacher spends all of their attention on Zoom and the in-person people feel discouraged, or sometimes they're paying attention to the in-person people and then the people on Zoom feel like they're not being heard, or the teacher can't read their comments, which again can be expected. There's a learning curve, but they wanted to make sure that was shared. And many of the people who are on distance are still staying on distance because they're nervous about COVID transmission. They're at risk. Many also, like I said, are just used to it, and they're saying that for the rest of this school year, they think it would just be easiest for them to keep doing what they're good at this point, so they don't have to worry about kind of the ups and downs of trying a new system. Next slide, please. And then I also wanted to acknowledge the recent events with the allegations against the mayor, just about the effects that it had on the students, because I did hear a lot about this, where they were preoccupied with checking the news, they were stressed out. I think the entire community was kind of on edge, and it definitely wasn't lost on the students. A lot of people just mentioned that they were just struggling to pay attention during class because they kept checking Twitter for new updates. And I know that this, for students, they've reported that it's kind of died down. They're able to pay attention a little more, but that was a very big concern for them, where they were unable to pay attention during class or get work done or get a solid night's sleep. And especially at the high school level, it's kind of brought about conversations about what each campus what our campuses reporting policies are like, and just students wanting to know more about that so that it's more readily available, because although there is a process in place, many students aren't aware of it. So that was just kind of a topic of conversation I wanted to make sure was known, was that a lot of people were talking about middle school and high school reporting policies for sexual harassment. And I believe the next slide is my last slide. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Ava. Anyone have questions for Ava? No, appreciate it. And it sounds like we have an agenda item that will address some of the things that students are wanting to hear about. So glad we have that coming up. Thanks again. Item 3.5, Superintendent's Report.
Hello, everybody. So I sent out a letter. I'm going to go over some of what's in the letter, but I'll probably expand upon some things that I didn't put in. So the CDC did make a recommendation that distancing could be reduced from 6 foot to 3 foot. This recommendation was made on Friday leading into spring break. It was rough timing. California Department of Public Health adopted it pretty much immediately. And so it is law in California, not law, it's allowed in California to go down to 3 feet. So we, as a district, I will say I decided I didn't really want to address this the first week with students back. I wanted to give everybody a chance to get to know each other again. So we didn't have this conversation except at the district level. My cabinet did. We talked about it, but principal sites, we really let everybody come back. The next week on Monday, we met with our teachers union, and actually are one of the few districts who have negotiated to have a 3 foot distance in our MOU. So we've always committed with each other that we're going to follow the science, and the science has changed. And so because of that, we as a team, we decided to adopt that. So as a district, we have adopted the 3 foot guidance. Now the next phase in that is planning how we can use it to our advantage. And as I'll be honest, I thought it was going to be pretty straightforward. When I heard it, I was like, great, just double the number of students and we'll be good. But once we got in and started talking about it, we realized that almost every classroom has different furniture setups. It's actually not nearly as straightforward for secondary as it might be for elementary. So this week, we have been really working through doing an assessment of every single classroom and finding each individual classroom, what its issues are. If we have, let's say, 28 students and the desks are only going to allow us to get 22 students in, then we're trying to figure out how to get those extra 6 students in. That's what we're currently doing. It's a little bit trickier at the middle and high school. So we also are still bound by stable groups. So I know that some people were mentioning Napa and Marin. they have a different county health official, and their county health official may have given them different guidance. Our county health official is only allowing us to have 3 stable groups at the secondary level. That means you can only change classes 3 times. So I know we all want to come back full time, but we don't actually have a mechanism to come back full time at the secondary level because we can only have 3 classes where we mix. You know, I know a lot of people want to know what the timeline is. We're trying to move quickly. This week we should have our assessment, we will have our assessment done of classrooms that are issues and where we can accommodate the maximum number of students in the classroom. And then we've got to talk to our teachers because we do have students on distance learning still. I can't force everyone to come back to school. No matter what, we are going to have some students on distance and some students in person. We have committed to that for the entire year. And it's hard. You know, I spent a number of hours in classrooms trying to get a feel for what was going on the first week back. And it's very hard for a teacher to, you know, engage students online and distance. We heard that in Ava's report, right? It's hard, and some people are having a hard time with it. If we go to 3 foot, again, that's going to change our instructional delivery model. And so we're going to figure out the classrooms that need to be figured out. And then next, after that, we're going to talk about what instruction is going to look like. And then hopefully, guys, we can get these kids back more. So that's really where we're at. Summer plans, I know we're asked about. I didn't plan to speak about summer plans, but we are planning an in-person summer school. Our Director of Educational Services, Lisa Saxon, is deep into that planning, and we're trying to make it the most robust summer school that Windsor's ever seen in person. So more to come on that, but we are working hard to make that happen. That was my report for now.
Thank you. Any questions for our superintendent from the board? Okay, looks like there are none. So we will move on to the next item, which is item 3.6, approval of minutes from March 15th, 2021, March 16th, 2021, and March 30th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve 3 sets of minutes as submitted.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I didn't. Oh, there he is. There's Eric. Okay, 5
Stephanie,
in favor.
would it be okay if I just mentioned that the board just approved? Did we just approve minutes? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We just approved minutes.
Yes, I'll wait until after consent action items, and then I'll say what I was going to say.
Okay. Sounds good. That's 5-0. And then we'll move on to consent action items. Go ahead, Rich.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve all consent items 4.1 through 4.13. If I can get a second, if there's any discussion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on any of these items? Okay, then the motion.
We vote on the motion.
Now we vote.
Yes.
Is everybody, you do it, Stephanie. Go ahead.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I see 5-0 in favor. Thank you, Rich. We will now move on to our report discussion section, but first, Jeremy is going to say something.
I just wanted to point out that the board just approved 2 new administrative hirings, a director of human resources and our Maddie Washburn elementary principal. The new director of human resources is going to be Chris Meredith. He's currently the high school principal in Cloverdale. The new elementary principal at Maddie is going to be Susan Yakich, who is also from Cloverdale. She's the principal at Jefferson Elementary currently. So they'll be joining us, and I'll invite them to our next board meeting so that they can say hello and tell you guys a little bit about themselves. But we're excited to bring them on. They rose to the top through the interview process.
Thank you. I also see that our interim Windsor High School principal is on. I don't know if you want to take a moment to reintroduce him to the community.
I don't want to talk about that guy, but I guess I'll do it. Yes, Mr. Steve Jorgensen, who many of you know, former superintendent here in Windsor. He's helping us out through the end of the school year. He's our interim principal at Windsor High School. So, Steve.
Good
say hello.
evening, everyone. Really great to be on a board meeting tonight. Really enjoying it. Quite frankly, I thought I was done with them, but since I see Pete there, I can hang with it. Thank you.
Well, we're glad you're here. Okay, we will move on to item 5.1, which is review of the Kalikameka Language Academy Portable Replacement Project programming. And I think Eric Van Pelt is presenting this item. Am I correct about that?
Yes,
You
I
are
am.
correct.
Okay, welcome, Eric.
How you doing? I'm going to share my screen here for a brief minute here, and we can take a look at the big plans for Cali. Okay, so what you're looking at right now is the set of programming drawings for Cali, which is a high level. It's the first set of design documents that are produced. So again, we're looking at the two-story classroom building that the board wanted to go with the last time we brought this project to you. This again is the first rendering, and again, these renderings build detail as we keep on going. So just remember that this is the very initial stage of the drawings. You can see it's got the two-story design with the L-shaped footprint. It does have it's very similar to Brooks's layout, but it does have a little bit more flair with the roof, since it's curbside, and it's going to have give it a little bit of it's going to make it stand out a little bit, I should say, rather than just your typical flat roof, and it's going to let everybody see it. So that is the exterior rendering for building massing. And now I'm going to start back at this page right here. And this is the initial site plan layout. Now, I want to be clear that we have had several meetings with Callie, with the principal, and reviewed different options for all of this. And this is kind of the consensus that came out the best, that managed schedule, budget, and quality of what we can produce the best. So I'm going to draw your attention first to the field. First, going with the two-story route, we're not able to phase the building. It all has to be built at once. So we do need to create some interim housing. Interim housing is going to be in the form of temporary portables. And you can see that as we went through this process, we looked for several different places to put the portables. And in talking and reviewing with Sharon and some of her staff, the best place we did come up with was to take a portion of the field. So we would take this portion of the field. This would be the first step in the process, would be to take this portion of the field and place the portables there. You can see then once we get those placed, we'd start construction, and that would start with demolishing all of the portables there, off-hauling them. We'll try to get rid of them if we can. If not, they'll get demolished and go in the dumpster. And then demolishing all the site work around there. Then,
Eric, could I interrupt a
go ahead.
second? I'm sorry to talk over you, but just
no
for the public, in case they haven't seen this or know what we're talking about, the far right of your screen is Star Road, correct?
Correct. This to orient you. Thank you, Trustee Heights. To orient you, this is Star Road right here. This is the road back to the campus area that's in the back behind Cali, and this is the North Road and the North parking lot. So then again, just to touch on the site plan, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. You can see the building, the L-shaped building in here with the new play structure right in front of it, and the new lunch shelter right in front of it as well. So this kind of really lays out and gives them a nice shade structure, and then also a nice new play structure to match the new play structure on the other side of campus. I'm going to go to the next drawing, and this is the first floor plan. You can see we've got seven classrooms on the first floor plan. We have restrooms here. We have restrooms here, an elevator machine room. This is a two-story building, so we will have to have an elevator, an electrical room, and then a all-gender restroom here, with 2 stairwells for egress, one here, and a small storage room here. with a custodian closet also on the bottom floor. Flipping to the top floor, it's a very similar layout with the restrooms in the center here. You have a teacher workroom and a storage room here. And then your all gender restroom and your student restrooms here. Again, I'm going to note back on the first floor, this is intended to be a staff restroom here. With that said, going over a few other items, the classroom, the layout inside the classroom that you can see, we reviewed different layouts, but it really came back to the Brooks classroom layout. Sharon and her group were really like that layout. It's worked well at Brooks. We've gotten positive feedbacks for it at Windsor Oaks. So the very similar teaching wall with the same layout, the same cabinet layout, and the same flooring layout with the technology in the boxes on the floor and the large TV in the casework. Again, this will also allow us to get rid of some of the portable restrooms that are on site, and that again we'll get nice new restrooms because we're creating larger restrooms than are just required for this building. We are creating some additional restroom space that will allow us to get rid of the portable sites and get rid of those last portable sites. The next phase of this is we are working on a cost estimate in conjunction with the architect, ATI AC Martin. Once we get that cost estimate, we will move on to the next phase of design, where we'll start filling in some of the gaps and some of the interior, what the interior of the classrooms are going to look like, and then we'll take it through the next steps. I'm going to ask Brian. Brian, can you talk a little bit about schedule and go over the phasing schedule with them?
So yeah, right now for our discussion with Sharon, they would like to have a full school year back in regular classrooms without disruption from construction. So the temporary housing, we're planning on starting construction next February of 2022. So we should have the classrooms ready for them to move into by the end of the summer of 2022, which will then begin the big construction of the two-story building. And the construction of the two-story building, we anticipate will take about a year.
Thank you, Brian. With that, I have two separate items tonight, and my next item is the overall update, which will include the other projects. So I'll ask if there's any questions on the Cali project specifically, or any feedback on the programming documents.
One thing I wanted to add is the classroom square footage is going to be 960 square feet for the master plan.
Thank you, Brian. Sorry, I missed that.
Thank you. Any questions on this item specifically from our board? It doesn't look like it. And then do I need to go out to public comment, Jeremy, on this item? I think I do. Jen, are we seeing any public comment on this item?
Stephanie, Eric had a comment, I think.
Oh, sorry, Eric, go ahead.
Oh, all right.
I just want to say no, Stephanie, I don't see any public comment.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the portables up on the field. If there were, I know that when we do deconstruction and clearing space to build the new building, will there still be enough restrooms? Are we going to have extra restrooms available? How's that going to work out?
So yes, we will have some temporary restrooms up there, and then we'll also phase the demo, so we don't demo the restrooms that we are going to demo until the absolute last possible moment.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any more questions, unless Rich, were you going to say? Nope. Okay. Then you can go ahead and cover the next item.
Okay, thank you. Again, I will cover multiple projects now, and we can review. So first is the largest project that's going on right now, and that is the Maddie Washburn new classroom buildings. Very similar project to what we're doing here at Cali. We did kick that project off. Ridgeview Builders, who's the site contractor, They mobilized at the end of March. They've been working on preparing the site utilities and the pads for the modular construction. The modular company is planning to mobilize in the month of May. We did have one initial unforeseen condition that was discovered. We discovered an existing electrical line that was not where it was shown on the as-built, and it was a little the elevation of it in the ground was a little too high. So we had several coordination meetings with the site. Brian did, and we were able to de-energize those lines, bury them a little deeper to get them safer and get them out of the way of the footprint. That is all wrapped up. And then the contractor is currently working on completing all the utility trenches and getting the pad certified to receive the modular buildings. We have seen pictures from our modulars that are getting constructed off-site. They're about 85% complete right now at the plant, and they're scheduled to arrive on site mid-June. So modular contractor will mobilize in May, start working on footings, and then actual buildings will start arriving in June. At that time, Ridgeview, who's the site contractor, they'll leave the site, and that the modular company will take over, complete the modular buildings, and Ridgeview will come back in behind them and wrap up all the site work and get the project completed, and with the hardscape and the landscaping. Elementary school cameras, the cameras are functioning and have been commissioned now. Training is being coordinated with all the sites. We expect this project to be closed out within the month. Intercom, we did receive bids for the intercom project. They did come in over budget. So we do have a facilities subcommittee meeting scheduled next week, and we're going to look at a myriad of items with the district regarding the intercom project, the budgets, and kind of what direction we want to go with next steps. Do we want to look at rebidding this, adjusting some scope, and also some coordination with some IT upgrades that are going to be ongoing as well. Windsor Middle School covered walkway dry rot roofing and roofing replacement. We're about 90% complete. The contractor now is working weekends and non-student days to finish up the work. We expect that to be all done and closed out in the next couple months. District-wide repainting. This is another item that's going to be reviewed at the subcommittee meeting next week. We have several different color options for the subcommittee to review. We are out to bid with the project, even though the colors are not selected as of yet. We are able to bid the project and tell them how many colors there's going to be on the building, and that allows them to put together their price, because the color of paint doesn't really matter to the price. So once we get the bids in next month, we'll get the final selection with the subcommittee and all the stakeholders, and we'll issue the paint colors to the contractors to be able to begin repainting. District-wide landscape project, irrigation. We wrapped up the Brooks Garden with the irrigation system for that. Then we're also working on reviving the landscaping at the North Bay Met campus in the areas around that. The contract for this work is scheduled to go to the board in the May board meeting. Those are the highlights. Again, lots of work going on now that the kids are back. We're taking opportunities on off days, weekends, and after hours whenever we can to get people in there to be able to knock out the work and get everything finished. And I did miss one. I apologize. That is the roofing project. The 2021 roofing project. You in the consent agenda item, you did approve our 2021 roofing project for the summer. That will be constructing over the summer, and we'll have a few more of those to review at the subcommittee level and at the board level. Any questions?
Thank you, Eric. I'm looking to see if we have any questions. I don't think so. Jen, do we have any public comment? from maybe on YouTube?
I just heard her walk away from her desk, so I'm assuming that we do not.
I don't think we do. She always keeps track of it and would have let me know if we did. So I don't think we have any questions. Thank you, Eric, for the update. We really appreciate it, and there is a lot going on.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving to item 5.3, resources for students and staff in light of the current events in the town of Windsor. So I wanted to make one quick statement before starting this item because it's related. We're going to give some resources in this item, and we did lose a Windsor high school student this week, and it's a very sad thing, and we just want the community to know that we're in communication with the family and supporting and respecting their wishes. We don't have further information to provide at the time, but they are with us in our thoughts and in our hearts. So as to this item, in light of recent events in our town, we want our students and their families and our staff to know how much we care about them, and to make sure that as a district, we spend some time discussing school district resources and processes. We want to especially thank our student board member, Ava Hamelberg, for her ideas and input and how to best serve our students and what kinds of resources and processes students want information about. So thank you, Ava, and go ahead, Jeremy, and take it from here.
I'm going to share my screen. Please let me know that you can all see that. I've got 3 screens. All right, so it's worked. So I'm going to start, and then I'm going to pass it off to different individuals. But first, of course, you're not going to go. So we've thought a lot about what we want to share, and we know that our town's hurting, and this is just hard. And so we wanted to lend our voice, but in a way that was constructive. And we thought the best way to lend our voice was to really talk about what we have available to students and staff if they ever find themselves in compromised positions that shouldn't happen. So I'm going to go through how we're governed and really what dictates what we do. So our district, the board's main purpose is to make sure that board policies and administrative regulations are aligned with their vision and really taking care of the school district. So when you're talking about what happens if there is a victim of harassment, sexual harassment, or assault, we go to our board policies always. And so I'm not going to talk about every one of these individual policies. That would be crazy to do, but I want to show you all the different policies that we would be going through if, let's say, a student was sexually assaulted or a staff member was sexually assaulted. They're here. So if you ever want to know what our policies are, or our process, I should say, you go and check our policies. Now, we've fashioned this so that we can go through what we do for staff and then what we would do for students. And for staff, I'm going to have our Director of Human Resources, Dr. Kane Lake, explain what would occur. And for students, I believe it's being tag team between Steve Jorgensen, Grace Curtin, and is it Ava and Raylan, I believe, was also on here. And I'm not sure if Pete's also speaking, but it's really being tag teamed by the high school team. Okay. So I will turn the floor over to Dr. Kane Lake to kind of explain our process for what if you are the victim of sexual harassment or assault, what do you do?
Yeah. So I thank you, Jeremy, and I appreciate that. It's probably important to mention before, kind of going through these items that are here, that we do provide training in sexual harassment and recognizing it, and roles both with our mandated reporter training and our sexual harassment training that staff get basically every year. So, and then the administrators get a sort of a double dose with the more detailed ways of sort of recognizing issues as they occur. But basically, our staff have access to the universal complaint procedure, and whether or not they even know that they have access to that, if we have a complaint, we channel it through the universal complaint procedure, which which embedded within also allows our staff to, or not allows, but gives them the options to file complaints through the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, through the Department of Fair, which is on federal level, or on a state level, the Department of Fair Employment and Housing. And then of course, local law enforcement as well. And so any and all of those options are made available to staff people. So we're really careful in our roles to not limit how a report is handled. But we, universal complaint procedure is our general guide, but that guide, like I said, it includes notice to the staff, and we do as well that they have that opportunity to report in many other ways as well. So I'll leave it at that for now, and then Jeremy, are you going to introduce the?
I think you're handing off to me, Chris.
Okay. Mr. Steve.
This is Steve. Good evening. As far as students go, one of the main thing is to report. Report. If something happens, if a sexual assault occurs, we can't express enough that it's important that it gets reported. And as far as who to report it to, it can be a preference. Of course, we encourage this reported to the police by the victim, but also that person can come to administration, a counselor, a teacher, whoever they are comfortable, the adults are comfortable on campus, who will report it, and that starts a process for us. And as Chris spoke to mandated reporters, we are all mandated reporters and have an obligation to report. And if a student comes to us and wants to tell us something, that's something that is made clear up front, that as mandated reporters, I may have an obligation to report this, whatever you tell me, not knowing what you're going to tell me for sure. The other thing is counseling. The investigation happens. Counseling support is made available immediately. Our administrators who are joined us tonight, Pete Sullivan, Grace Curtin, and Amy Ziegler, and our counseling staff, two of them are with us tonight and they'll speak later. They are very supportive of our students and try to make sure not only to listen, but to comfort the students also. And parents are contacted, and additional resources as identified are made available to them. So that's a process that kicked in. Now, if it's sexual harassment, we do have board policy against sexual harassment. There is education code 48900R against harassment and also against sexual harassment. That will guide us in our steps that we'll take if it's a student on campus that's harassing somebody. And oftentimes we're asked, what are you going to do about it? And parents often think that we can do something as more than just suspension or potential expulsion, but education code is our guide, the penal code and the police department support us where we need support. And with that, Chris, I think it's going back to you, and then Grace and Ava Velasquez and Raylyn. I will try to pronounce your last name, Raylyn Luceau, and she can correct it as she comes on, please. But they also will be speaking to the rest of the subjects regarding students. Thank you.
Thanks. So I'll jump into the staff response here, and only by outlining the universal complaint procedure, because it's a very specifically guided process, and just to know that if anything comes anywhere within this realm of harassment for staff, that we are going to go to that universal complaint procedure, and we will first step to log and record that case, and that log is a record, which is something that the Office of Civil Rights has the right and the expectation to examine regularly to see that we are actually following through, what were the outcomes, and to be able to see if there's any cases that might be slipping through the cracks. But the next step would be to assign a compliance officer. That's usually the director of human resources, but in other cases it can be handed off. immediately interim safety measures are established. So we want to make sure that whatever staff has a concern that their immediate safety is established and secured, and that might involve other agencies. There's many different decision pathways here, and typically we have counsel at our side here to make sure that we're that we have that expert advice as well. Next step is a notification to the complainant and to the respondent. So both get a notice of what's happening and a 60-day resolution window. There's an investigation and then a report on the findings to both the complainant and respondents, and with a eventual final written decision with facts, conclusions, disposition, corrective action, rights to appeal, and rights to file with other agencies, so that it's made abundantly clear to who's ever involved that they have rights beyond working with the school district, but there are also rights within the school district as well. So I could go on forever on this, but this is basically the outline of how it works. And then again, all of this is recorded and available for Office of Civil Rights Inspection. So with that, I'll pass it off to the student end.
Thank you, Dr. Kane-Lake. Some of this has been mentioned before, but it can't be underscored enough that all of our staff, K through 12, receive mandated reporter training. And so from that, we keep the welfare of the student at the center of the conversation and at the center of our focus. We work in tandem with police agencies. Each school district, we're lucky to have a very incredibly talented SRO, JP Tamayo, who we work very closely with at all levels throughout our district, particularly at the secondary level, qualified as 6 through 12. So once the case is confirmed, we may need to reach out to CPS and that arm as well for the investigation, and then counseling supports are being made available immediately. I'm going to ask Eva to talk a little bit about the concept of an open pass, what that means at the 9-12 level, and talk a little bit about what are some of the conversations that take place individually with a response to a victim. Eva?
Yeah, thank you, Grace. Good evening. I'm Eva Velasquez. I'm one of the academic counselors. And I appreciate being able to highlight what the mechanics of what we do at the high school when we do have a student who's in need and in crisis. So first of all, we've always been with that thought of students there to serve students, is that we've always maintained an open door policy. Students don't need to make an appointment to see the counselor. So whatever it is, the idea is that the door is open unless you're meeting with another student, and that students can just pop in. And we recognize that for teenagers, their crisis is in that moment. Their need, whatever it is, their need is in that moment, and we need to be able to meet them where they're at that moment. So when it comes to this particular subject, is that we will meet with the student and or parent immediately regarding their concerns and providing some immediate supports. The investigation will start. We'll work in coordination with our student advisors and the administrators in order to get law enforcement involved and to provide the right support for student to make the statement. We will be sometimes in the same room with them when they have to make a statement or write something out, or sometimes it's handled offsite with law enforcement officials. We do, when the student is ready to transition back to school or to their regular classes, we will also meet with them in regards to what they may say to their peers, or in regards to comments or questions by peers if this is a case that is known by other students. So we want to empower them with what they're ready to say to others and to maintain their confidentiality if that's what they would like, but they also sometimes are questioned. We provide the student with an open pass, which means that the student can use that, has that pass at all times. They can use it to exit the classroom if a topic has been triggering for them, a reading, a class discussion, another student, and they can come right up to the counseling office with that pass, sign in, we make note of that. We give them an opportunity to check in with us if they want to discuss further, or maybe just by this point, they may already have a counselor therapist outside of school that they're working with. And we give them just the space to work, or to do writings, to do maybe some artwork, to work on some other work, some reading, other assignments, just so that they can bring them back down and make them again feel safe and comfortable in our space. Once the investigation is done with consultation with administrators, we may go as far as to change a student's schedule, not necessarily the victim schedule, but a schedule of a student to again build confidence with the student and their safety on our campus. We may, with student and parent permission, communicate with teachers and say something as simple to the teachers as student is dealing with something challenging in their life at this time. Please allow for flexibility. The student will communicate with you if they need maybe an extension for an assignment, or if there's a concern with a particular project that they may be doing. The other part that academic counselors will do is that we really help, particularly with the monolingual Spanish-speaking community, in building that bridge to trusting those other service agencies. Just 2 weeks ago, I was in one of these conversations with advising the family that you definitely want to follow up with these trained professionals. And I think that's a very crucial role that we play. And the really other big thing that we do behind the scenes is that the academic counselors may sometimes call those service providers, outside of school service providers, to make sure that there is that follow-up for that family, so that they don't get lost in the loop. So those are some of the mechanics of what we do.
Thank you, Eva.
Thank you, Eva.
Okay, I'll launch into the supports available to victims, and with matters that involve staff members, we do have an employee assistance plan through Beacon Health that we make available to our employees, and oftentimes we'll kind of do a little hand holding, and rather than just handing them the brochure, we'll kind of help them navigate through their services. And then, the mention there of other health welfare plan benefits and referrals to other agencies can also go into a little more detail, where we're actually, as part of those interim remedies and the final conclusion remedies, or to the extent that a final conclusion is possible, that we are helping the employee heal and find ways to get resources. And the district is, very open to supporting that in any way we can find possible. So, and with that, I'll turn it over to our student folks here again.
Thank you, Dr. Kane-Lake. Our staff, Eva described some of the drop-in counseling opportunities that we afford our students, as well as individual and group. And in a little bit, Raylene will define what those look like. We triage and connect them to both in community services, in school services, as well as agencies that are outside, getting exchange of information and permission, so that information can be consistent and the support can be consistent across the services that the family is engaged with. We, as a Windsor High School community, have embraced the use of restorative practices. There are many types of circles. For the more complex issues, we utilize our school psychologist, Raylene, our social emotional counselor, others who have been trained deeply in the circles that have to do with grief, having to do with trauma, and we've executed those the last, I would say, 5 years. So that is certainly available resource as well. We have in the past worked with Team Success and SOS, and they have co-facilitated some clubs on campus, that's the education piece to facilitate awareness for all students and get that conversation and that information out. Currently, our pre-med core is looking at the possibility of having a public health club in the fall. Why in the fall? This is a student-driven and student-executed and designed club. And in the past, they've done mental health, they've done sexual assault, they've done resource training, and put on events and activities to, again, raise awareness throughout the campus. And right now they're very focused on COVID and COVID responses. But as time has gone on and this issue exists in our community, there has been some student interest. So the teachers in the pre-med club, in the pre-med core are starting to talk with their students about the possibility of organizing speakers, creating awareness events, and educating their peers in the fall and moving that forward throughout the school year. Chris, back to you.
Okay, we'll flip to the next slide, right? There we go. Yeah, I'll just say that, you know, there's just a little more detail here on some of the resources that are available. Again, the Employee Assistance Program, and I think my student colleagues here are going to address a little bit more about the Family Justice Center of Sonoma County, because these are some things that are really used, resources that are used both for students and staff. But I would just, I would add that we're very conscious of not trying to force a staff person who needs particular assistance into any one provider, so that we want to be able to give the support where they need it. And then also, we do feel like our regular Title IX and sexual misconduct trainings, as well as the mandated reporter trainings, are part of that as far as preparing staff for the potential for these kinds of things to happen and how to handle them and how to sort of process the steps to report and to resolve. So with that, I'll pass it back to Grace, or who's ever in line here.
Thank you, Dr. Koenig. I mentioned earlier the pre-med core, and they're actually the public, they're the public health and wellness classes, AKA pre-med core. And they do for their students in the 11-12 focus area, they do a very specific unit and curriculum on consent and healthy and unhealthy relationship and sexual assault, and how to report that. All students in 10th grade are required to take a state graduation requirement course, and that's through our health class. And so that information is provided, and that training is provided at least once during a high school student's career with us. The Alliance Medical Center provides those guest speakers and the teaching curriculum. And why is that? We want to make sure that the information that is being provided is accurate and connects to the community resources that are made available. And this continues to help support, educate, and provide resources for our students. I'm going to have Ray Lynn talk a little bit about some of these resources that she has listed here and provided. There's also some on the very last slide that we'll talk about. But right before that, I'd just like to mention that the final bullet is we do have our Windsor High School students circle keepers who are 9th through 12th graders, and they have written and facilitated peer circles at Cali 6 through 8, also at Windsor Middle for 8th grade, and then for their own peers 9 through 12. And while obviously they are not counselors, the idea behind this is to have that conversation and some tools regarding other issues that our students deal with, 6 through 12, such as body image, how to ask for help, how do you manage social media. And so these circles are very impactful, and the response that we've received from the 6th through 12th graders has been incredibly favorable. And so that's yet another resource that we connect our 6th through 12th graders with. So Raylan, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about some of your in-class presentations and also some resources that are on this slide. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Raylan Loazo. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am the social emotional counselor at Windsor High, North Bay Met Academy, and Windsor Oaks Academy. So a big part of my role for Windsor high school age students is providing individual counseling, crisis intervention, group counseling, and classroom presentations. So a big part of my classroom presentations has been around suicide prevention and education. I do that, well, I've been for the last 2 years, last 2 school years as when I started at the Windsor District. I also have done presentations for teachers and different corps who are interested in mental health and talking about stress, mental health, psychological disorders, mindfulness, and leading some experiential activities and coping strategies for students. So I am pretty flexible when I have different teachers and corps reach out to me. I work with them to create presentations and kind of curriculum based on what they're interested in me addressing with their students specifically. And in terms of our community resources that we have in regards to sexual assault, the Family Justice Center of Sonoma County is a wonderful resource, especially for children who have experienced any kind of sexual assault, rape, things of that nature. They have forensic psychologists who work there, and they make sure to record, they do video recording of all sessions that they do with children and adolescents to help prevent re-traumatization for those students if it gets to the point where they are pressing charges or going to court. And oftentimes those recordings can be used rather than having to have these survivors have to go on the stand and relive and be asked and interrogated for their things. And they really connect families with resources, not just for the survivor of whatever type of assault it was, but as well as family support to help the family be able to have resources and knowledge to best support their children. So it's definitely a great resource that we have here in Sonoma County. Verity is also an agency that works directly with trauma and sexual assault. They have a 24-hour crisis line that will walk people through what to do if they were assaulted and they want to go to the hospital or press charges, or just they need someone to talk to and they're in a crisis. And then they provide specialized counseling for trauma with providers in that agency, as well as contracted throughout our community. And then the National Sexual Assault Hotline, again, is another 24-hour crisis line for people. And the RAIN Institute is it's the National Institute for everything to do with rape, assault, incest. And they have both the phone number as well as a chat, which I think is super helpful for adolescents because many of them do not feel comfortable talking on the phone with strangers. So they tend to like to do the chat or texting mechanism. And I think that's everything on this slide.
Thank you, Raylene.
Yeah. So the only other thing that I have on this slide that we didn't address is the Sonoma County Legal Aid, which is another great resource in Sonoma County that will provide free legal counsel to people who have experienced any kind of crime or assault to help make sure that they can have lawyers and get support with shelter, money, food, healthcare, transportation, those types of things to make sure that socioeconomic status is not a barrier for them to get justice. So I think that's a great resource for people to know about. And I have all of this information. I created a website at the beginning of the pandemic, trying to make sure that all of these resources in general are available to students. So we have one both at the district level as well as at the high school level. So a lot of this information on this slide and the next couple of slides is available to everyone in our community on the high school and district webpage. You can go to the next slide. I think we talked about everything on this slide. Eva did a great job explaining academic counselors, and then myself, social emotional counselor, which we have throughout the district at different levels. And we work in conjunction with one another to support our students across the gamut of not just academic and school related issues, but also social issues, peer issues, just the emotional well-being of our students. And especially when it comes to sexual assault, I do immediate intervention and meeting with students and kind of having that safe space to land, as well as, you know, sometimes what that entails, because our system for mental health is often very infiltrated, especially right now, is really holding those students and making sure that they're being seen and checked in with, while we might be waiting for them to get connected to one of these community resources or through their health insurance and those kinds of things. And I do see students both virtually and in person now that we're back at school. The next slide. So I just went through and gathered a bunch of different information. So all of these are hyperlinks, both for students, for families, teachers, how to talk to people, if they may have been a survivor of any kind of sexual assault, what to do to help yourself, like having self-care after trauma, talking about consent, talking about alcohol, online dating, teen sexual assault, all things that I thought might be helpful to both students and parents. A lot of these come from the RAIN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. They're the leading kind of organization when it comes to mental health in this topic. And then just some additional resources at the end, especially of parent resources, frequently kind of asked questions or concerns about child sexual abuse, and what to do if somebody comes to you, like as a parent or as a teacher. And I know oftentimes there's anxiety for those who aren't mental health providers of what if I say the wrong thing and I don't know what to do. So there's kind of some support for everybody on here for things that I thought would be relevant for our students and those who work with them. And I think that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions or anything that I did not cover.
Go ahead, Eric.
Thank you, Stephanie and Raylene. Nice to meet you. We haven't officially met face-to-face yet. I'm glad you're working with us. So this online resources page that you're sharing, how would people access this? Is it on the district website under the counseling tab, or where would they go to find this live hyperlinks page?
Yes, I will make sure that it's on the district webpage. So I created a social emotional page for the high school, and then we also worked as a collaborative with the other social emotional counselors throughout the district to make a district level one. So I will make sure that this is updated on that, but you can definitely, if you go to the Windsor High School page and click on the counseling tab, there is a section that says social emotional counseling, and all of this is linked on there.
Very good. Thank you for that.
And it's also in the agenda item as well. So if anyone accesses this meeting agenda through board docs, the PowerPoint is there with all of the resources. I would just want to say thank you to everyone who was here and for how much time and effort and thought and care you put into preparing this presentation. We really, really appreciate it. And it was very informative. So thank you. Are there any more questions from the board?
I just have one question. I also want to say thank you so much for putting all of that work into presenting all of that information. That was really wonderful to hear. My only question is if there's a resource page or link for parents who only speak Spanish.
That is something that was asked of me yesterday when I was making sure all of this information was up to date. And I think that we could maybe use some of our translators in the district to translate these documents. But unfortunately, a lot of them that I found on the organization pages were only provided in English. And if there was anything in Spanish, I put both versions on there. I think that is definitely something that would help support all of our parents, not just English speaking ones.
Yes.
I will work with our admin team to see if we can get some things translated.
That would be really great. And I think also if they were broken out onto their own page so that they're easier to find and get to. But thank you.
Definitely.
Any other comments from the board? I see Rich.
I just want to reiterate what others have said. It's thank you for putting this together. It was done, in relatively, some of these agenda items that we get they take quite a bit of time to put together, and it's nice to see that we already have a lot of these resources together, so we were able to present it to everybody. This is really, really good. Just a little bit of an FYI, just so in addition to the schools, so parents that are listening, a lot of our youth sports throughout our community and whatever, through Safe Sports, I know that through USA Wrestling, because I just went through it again, they have a lot of these same things that were brought up tonight. All the coaches that coach have to go through the same training, and they have to do it every year. So if your kids play in a certain sport in the community, you might want to find out through the leadership of that organization if all the coaches have to go through a Safe Sports type program that has a lot of that are very consistent with what the school district is also going through. So if they're not, I would encourage your groups to do that. But my hat's off to everybody that has put something forward in short time and a really excellent amount of material for everybody.
I see Ava's hand. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, hi. I actually attended Raylan's workshop on suicide prevention last school year, so I do recognize you. Hi. Thanks so much for this. I'm a little worried because I have been speaking to some students who have gone through the reporting process or have considered it or just experienced something like this. And it seems like they weren't aware that these resources are available. And I mean, I know that these resources can be super useful. So I'm just wondering at school sites, especially the high school, how it can be more widely publicized or so that students are more readily aware that these are available, so that if they're maybe not comfortable talking to a professional yet, they can at least do some research on their own without having to attend board meetings to know that these exist.
Thank you.
I think that's a great point, Eva. And I feel like it's, maybe something that we can work to have come out at our video bulletin. I feel like that's the easiest way to get things out to students, because that is something that's been difficult. I feel like since I started my position, is trying to make sure that all students know, where to look and how to get supported. So I think that's really good feedback.
Thank you, Ava, for that question. We actually have a couple students who, for their senior projects next year, are interested in creating ID cards, and on the back side of the ID card that one would have at Windsor High School, and maybe the project, again, it's student driven, could even be at the middle school level, but there would be a list of resources. So that's something that can be carried with that student themselves, hotline numbers, etc. to be a readily available resource for that student. So we do have a team that's looking into that of rising seniors for that. But thank you for the feedback.
Thank you. Jen, do we have any public comment on this item through YouTube?
We do not.
Okay. Thank you so much to everyone who presented and contributed. We will move on to our next item, which is 5.4, update on in-person graduation ceremony plans.
Yeah, so we have plans for North Bay Met, Windsor Middle, Cali, and the high school. They were all separate, so I was trying to put them all together the past couple of minutes just so it's easier to present. Hopefully all the links still work. So Pete, I'm assuming you'll probably head up this conversation, at least in the beginning, Pete and Grace. And so do you want me to share the one that I put together, or do you want to share your own, Pete and Grace?
Do you have the same slides that we have?
I believe so. It just doesn't have the cool gold color. Beyond, I think we're all right.
That's fine. The gold color is not necessary.
Okay. Let me.
There are two people in the audience who disagree. I just want to point that out.
One of them, Amy Whiteley.
No, it's. I won't call them out by name.
The
Go ahead,
gold,
continue.
the gold is important, Pete.
Sorry.
Aesthetic.
Because some were in PowerPoint and some were in Google Slides.
Oh, right.
It's okay. We know it was a slip up.
Is the video still available?
I clicked it. It worked.
All right.
All right. So we'll go to the high school first.
Thank you, Jeremy. So Amy and I tried to condense it into a single slide, but we just have so much to share and we're really excited about our graduation. But in order to kick it off, we thought that we would share the video that Anna Whiteley has put together. She put it in our video bulletin last week, and this was how we rolled it out to our students. And it's really the cornerstone of our message to the community as well. So we'll roll that.
Oh.
I don't know if anybody else can hear it, but I cannot.
I'm not hearing it either.
Oh, I could hear it great.
There's an option when you share your screen in the bottom left-hand corner to share audio. And I think it's possible it's not clicked.
All right. Well, let's see. Should I share computer sound? That's all I see.
Yes, that's it.
Okay. All right, let's see. We'll start this over.
Hello, my name is Anna Whiteley, and I'm your ASB president, and I've been working as a member of the graduation committee for the last 5 months to plan the graduation for the class of 2021. Our graduation committee is comprised of students, teachers, staff members, administration, and many entities in our community, all dedicated to making this year's graduation the best it can be. As many of you may know, we've been parallel planning a graduation cruise as well as a modified traditional style ceremony in person. After sending out 2 separate surveys and getting all of the feedback and learning more about the COVID regulations, I am excited to announce that we will be hosting a modified in-person traditional style ceremony for our graduating class. Graduation will be held on June 5th in the Kirkpatrick Stadium at Windsor High School. As we work with our vendors, we will soon be determining the number of ceremonies and the number of guest tickets that each graduate will have. It is clear, based on our surveys, that both students and parents want smaller ceremonies with the maximum allowable guests possible. As a committee, we are thankful for all of your feedback, as you, along with our COVID regulations, are guiding this event. We look forward to continuing our planning of the modified, in-person, traditional style ceremony. Thank you.
All right.
Oh.
I think we advanced one.
How do I get back? All right.
Should be the next slide after hers.
Oh, there you go. All right, I was already on it.
So although Anna covered it very well in her video, we are happy to announce it's an in-person event. We are following the metrics currently, and we're in the orange tier, which means we are allowed 650 guests. So all of our metrics are based on that. We are going with we're imagining a 3 ceremony day where we would have the event start at noon, and then one at 3, and then one at 5, ending roughly around 7, wrapping up the day. If we move to the yellow tier, based on the plurality of the responses have been that, as Anna said, people would like to have more guests rather than larger ceremonies. So we would probably increase the number of guests as opposed to decreasing the number of ceremonies, but we have not come to that conclusion yet, but that's where we're leaning. Our students are going to be presented by corps at this point, where we have not worked out exactly which corps will go with which. That discussion is ongoing, and hopefully we'll have some of that resolved tomorrow in our graduation meeting. The core teachers at this point will be readers, and we'll also have teachers who have their sons and daughters, their students, will be presenting their own students, their own child at the ceremony as well. And in addition to everything we're doing in person, we are going to be live streaming this. So it's going to be available to folks who are across the country or in different countries. And in addition to that, we will have a full video, which is going to be released at 7 o'clock, which will have all of the speeches and the keynote, the superintendent's message, principal's message, the Spanish welcome, and the I think there is a student speech as well as the valedictorian speech, which were recorded earlier. So all of that will be available in a package with a bonus reel of footage that's being put together by Dave Beal, who is our yearbook lead, and he and Amy are working in conjunction to create a really stunning video package that will be sent out and will be kind of a memento for those who are graduating this year and for their families. Next slide. So this was kind of what I was breaking down earlier. This is just the basics of what we're facing in terms of orange and yellow tier and what results in what. I'm really hoping that we get to the yellow tier. As you can see, we can have around 1,300 people there, which would mean if we had 3 events, we could expand the number of guests per student. At this point, just so you're imagining what we're imagining, the student is sitting with their parents. And the reason why we did this is it would be difficult for us to fit, especially in the orange tier, to have a student section, and have them distanced appropriately, and then have a parent section and have them distanced appropriately. If we combine them and we just have a single section of groups that are distanced, we can actually fit more people in. And it's going to be an unusual, I think it's going to be great because parents get to sit with their student, and it's going to be a fun way to do it. But if we are able to move to the yellow tier, the number of people who sit with their student will increase we're looking at 6. It just depends on what the footprint of our seating arrangement is. We haven't worked that out yet.
And that was a really big point that the students made in terms of their experience last year when we did the graduation cruise. The families unanimously said one of the most special things was their closeness with their student. In that case, obviously it was in a car. So we took that idea, and the students were really excited to hear that they would be sitting with their families because that intimacy was important in that connection and celebration. So we're happy that we're doing the math and figuring it out.
Thank you. Next slide. So this gets to the presentation of the grads. They'll sit together in pods. They will receive diplomas by core. Teachers will present. And this goes also into more detail regarding the audio and visual production, the live streaming, and what the parents will be receiving at 7 o'clock. It will be posted, and then they can download it and watch it for years to come if they choose. Next slide. And this is...
We were on to Cali.
Yeah, Cali.
So I'll present the other school sites. Everything is going to be in person. Everything is being planned to be in-person graduation. And Cali, same thing. They're not quite as far along as the high school in terms of planning. But they're going to determine the number of graduates in May. Again, they were looking at the tiers to see which tier we were going to be in, because it's a little easier to plan once you know. Most likely, guys, we're going to be in the orange tier. We've kind of plateaued, as Julian likes to say, we've plateaued, and we're kind of running about the same numbers. So our downward trend has stopped. Windsor Middle School, looking at June 1st, 8th grade barbecue and a DJ party. And then on June 2nd, 8th grade promotion will begin at 10 a.m. It's going to take place on the field. When I spoke to Principal Williams, he felt that the field is so large that we're really not looking to limit the number of spectators. We'll just make sure everybody stays distanced with the number of graduates and how large the field is. And just so everybody knows, June 3rd and 4th will be asynchronous for 8th grade, since promotion will break the stable groups. We can't really break our stable groups and then come back and bring everyone together. Oh, I missed North Bay Met. I have it somewhere, so let me get out of here. Well, I have North Bay Met somewhere as well, and I'm sorry that I can't find it. But North Bay Met is also going to host their own separate graduation. It's not going to be with the high school. So they started that last year, I believe, and they're going to continue to have their own separate graduation that will also be in person. So more details to come for those North Bay Met and Windsor Oaks, I should say, not just North Bay Met, Windsor Oaks and North Bay Met Academy. Any questions?
Oh. I don't have any questions. Any questions from the board? I think I see Rich unmuted.
Just real quick, if with Cali, with the construction that's going to be going on and different things over there, has anybody talked about them possibly having their presentation maybe over in the at the Fitzpatrick Stadium?
No, not yet, Rich. It doesn't mean that it can't take place like that, but right now we're still looking at Cali. I could talk to Sharon though.
I meant Kirkpatrick, not Fitzpatrick. That's a different guy. Anyhow, I just wanted, Pete and Grace, again, you guys, you've got that creative gene that I admire in other people. I wish I had it, but I don't. And I'm, if this graduation is half as good as what you did last year, I think the kids and the family are going to be happy as heck. So congratulations, not congratulations, just thank you for the extra energy and that gene you guys have that is so awesome. So thanks for doing it.
Yeah, we should give a shout out to Amy Whiteley, who
absolutely
here. She is the powerhouse behind all this. I mean, we dream of things and she makes them happen. So really, we lean on her heavily, and she rises to the occasion every single time. So
she does. She does. Also a shout out and props to the town. Every time we have our meetings, our town manager is involved, our students are involved, Amy's there, all the voices are at the table, and it's a real team effort. Thank you, Rich.
I just want to say kudos to everyone that worked on graduation plans. And I felt a little emotional as you were talking because my daughter is graduating from Cali this year. So I felt a little bit emotional hearing that there actually is a plan. So thank you so much.
Yeah, that's very exciting. You'll get to be there kind of on stage when she walks across the stage. That's awesome. Yes, I just want to reiterate what everyone else said. Thank you so much for all of the planning, the detailed multi-planned approaches. I know how much work it is, and I know how much work you've done and how much work Amy Whiteley and Anna Whiteley, our former student board member, has done. We already recorded our speeches, which filmed them for the virtual version, which is pretty amazing that we've already done that in mid-April. So that just tells you how on top of this everyone is. With no further questions, I will move on. I don't think we have any more. Okay, so, I need to ask for public comment. I don't think there is any. on this item?
I don't see any.
Okay, great. So we will move on to item 5.5, our LCAP report.
Okay, so I've been keeping an eye on the time again, and it's chipping away. So in the interest of that, I'm going to do kind of an accelerated version of this presentation tonight, because I can see that there are a number of discussion action items to come as well. So let me share my screen, see if I can get this to work. Okay, so thumbs up if you see 2021 LCAP survey results. Yes, yay. Okay, good. It did what it was supposed to do. All righty, so here we go. Just logistically, we ran the survey in a similar window. Of course, everything tonight is, the disclaimer is this was a distance learning year. This was a COVID year. And so will that potentially play into a lot of these results? Potentially, but we went ahead and asked the same questions so that we have the basis for comparison. So survey in December, ended in January, continued to ask 5th through 12th grade students, parents, and staff. They all were asked the same questions for purposes of comparability across groups. And all of the communication regarding the surveys went home multiple times in English and in Spanish, and via email, text, and on Facebook. So here are 3 years worth of responses. Overall here, a jump from last year to this year with parents from 26 to 38%, which is nice to see. Bit of a drop with staff and about the same with students. Then when we really look at students and how the responses went, this is a lot of numbers to look at. So I'm going to draw your attention to 2 places, and one of them is in this area. So for example, this year, 86, we see that 156 Brooks 5th graders took the survey, which represents 86% of the 5th graders at Brooks, and on down the line at the sites. So it looks as if, woohoo, wow, well, Cali had 100% of their students, 5th through 8th grade participate, which is great. And I was able to disaggregate their site-specific data and hand that over to Cali admin to share with their site council and their staff and their ELACs, et cetera. However, for the purposes of this presentation, and just as a reminder, when we come down to this area, we can see that even though 86% of Brooks 5th graders responded, their voice comprises 7% of the actual survey. So it is just important for context to remember that part of it. And whereas Cali had 100% of their 5th through 8th graders participate, it represents 24% of the voices in the survey. So just as a reminder as we're moving through. All right, so how do families want us to communicate with them? As you can see, there is this growing trend with electronics. So text and email are the best ways, though we do still notice a difference, and that is with more Spanish-speaking parents indicating that they would prefer a phone call. So knowing that and keeping that in mind as we reach out to communicate. When we look at race and ethnicity breakdown, what I want to draw your attention to is that this school year, 37% of our students are white, though 48% of the parents who took the survey identified as white, and 56% of our actual student body in our district is Hispanic or Latino. Yet only 32% of the parents who took the survey identified as Hispanic or Latino. So we're disproportionate here, and we'd like to see that come more into balance so that we have commensurate percentages of respondents that reflect the demographics of our district. And then we break it down into program participation. And again, you'd want to see a commensurate number. So for example, we have about 5% of our student body is migrant ed, and about 2% of the parents who took the survey identified their students as migrant ed. So pretty close. Where we see disparity is over here in two areas. So English language development, or multi-language learners, as we now call them, honoring their home language as well as the language that they are learning, in our case, English. 16% of our district students are multi-language learners, though only 3% of the parents who took the survey identified their students as multi-language learners. And then the other area for growth is low socioeconomic status or socioeconomically disadvantaged students who qualify for free or reduced lunch. 51% of those students qualify based on our student count this year, while only 25% of parents indicated that their students qualified. So 2 areas for growth there. Overall, this is an LCAP requirement. Overall, folks strongly agree that the school is providing a safe and positive learning environment. Trusted adults the data's a little wonky this year. So you can see here, parents went from 83% down to 66%. Was that a factor of COVID? Probably. We're not really sure. And what didn't change a lot was the student perception. The other piece that didn't change a lot is the discrepancy that we see between the student and the staff reporting around agreeing or strongly agreeing with that statement. So more work on identifying trusted adults for students on campuses. All right, the school regularly seeks parent input and participation. Overall, a bit of a drop for parents, an increase for staff, and if we go by site, you can see that some of them, there was a little bit of a drop. There was a fairly significant drop at Windsor High School. So that would be an area of focus potentially for next year. And again, the degree to which COVID played in this year regarding input and participation could clearly have a role as well. All right, so the school assisting students who are struggling academically, not a lot of statistical shift from last year to this year. And again, the area of focus that we know we need, and this will bear out probably in our special ed study that's forthcoming as well, is over here we have roughly 1 in 5 parents consistently, they're not sure. And so it's very important for us to begin to really improve our communication around the ways in which we do assist students who are struggling academically across the sites and get that information into parents' hands. Same thing around students who are struggling socially and emotionally, and it's actually even worse for parents. They're not really sure. A third of them are not sure. It's another area of growth for us. We still overall, when we break all of the curricular areas down, we still see math being the leader in what kids need more help with. The interesting piece is that we had a pretty significant jump with students self-reporting that they don't need help with anything. So, you know, I hope they're right, but we will continue to monitor our achievement data as it comes in. But that was an interesting note for this year's data. Then when we look at math more closely and we look at all the various ways we could help students, so before or after school tutoring, support or intervention inside the school day is how this sentence finishes. Summer school, peer tutoring with vetted student tutors, parent education so that parents can help their kids at home, or no support is needed. The biggest support with parents, students, and staff was over here in before and after school tutoring or intervention inside the school day, with the exception, of course, of no support is needed by students again.
Lisa, I'm curious, this is Eric, I'm curious if maybe some of those last 2 items there about the extra support, may have a correlation with the teachers having more office hours or asynchronous time where kids can reach out and have support that way, where they never had that in the past. They'd have to make an appointment where now time is available to them.
You know, that's a good point, Eric, and there's a possibility of that. It would be interesting for us to do more follow-up on that. In most of my spot checking, kids were not taking advantage of the office hours this year. So it could be that my spot checks were not consistent with what the norm was. So it would be good to follow up and find that information out. All right, and then we move on to VAPA, or Visual and Performing Arts. And there was a drop here from the perception of parents strongly agreeing that the program is meeting my child's needs. COVID clearly had played a role in that this year, and being the recipients of another VAPA related grant, we will be excited to bring you plans for how we will attack this next year and moving forward as we continue to work through the VAPA strategic plan. All right, the school motivates students to learn. This one came down a little bit from the student voice perspective. And again, we see a discrepancy between what staff believe and what students are actually reporting. So it would be good to explore that further in terms of engagement and motivation. We've paid quite a bit of attention to this question over the last few years after root cause analysis through our differentiated assistance process, and that is around caring adult behavior. This year, we qualified caring adults through some examples, and it's possible that that's what bumped the student response up a little bit when we called out, hey, it could be a coach, it could be a custodian, it could be a principal, it could be a teacher, and name some specific examples that we were thinking of. But either way, it's to be celebrated because it's going in the direction that we want it to go. And then
Lisa, this is Bill. A lot of interesting slides, and we're getting the data sets over years. Of every slide I saw, I looked at the bottom 3 lines on that and was just gleeful in my heart that every single school site had, Brooks was up a bunch, the high school a little bit, every single one went up. And I think over the course of a year, for the extraordinary flexibility that our parents, our staff, but particularly our students had to show, for this report to come back on this slide this way, I think is a testament that it's all kind of been worth it, and we'll get through it, right? We'll get through it from the resources that we talked about in that brave presentation a bit ago. We'll get through it through the in-person, promotions and graduations. But this one warmed my heart. I think it's always good to have the data, but if our constituents, our students, right, are getting this and report that, we can take a breath and a little feather in our cap, and to them that they're getting it. I think that they're responding to this challenge. So kudos to all concerned. I thought of all the slides, this one just, it raised the tide on how we're doing. For so many other sort of challenging things we have to talk about, the students think, there's adults who care. We can't do a whole lot better than that, right? So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was my pleasure to share it. And it's been, yes, this year with COVID and different ways in which adults reached out to care for students. And also just the very intentional focus and the ways our actions and services via our LCAP are, I hope, producing these results. And Windsor Oaks 63 to 100%. That's amazing. So thanks for that, Bill. All right. This one as well, interesting. So teachers and other adults work hard to help students with schoolwork when they need it. Again, we saw a bump from last year to this year from the student voice. They see that folks are trying to really help them. College career readiness, what I would bring to your attention for the most part, again, has to do everything about educating parents. We've gone from 1 in 5 to nearly a third of parents not really being sure about whether or not the schools we are preparing students to be college and career ready. We've had this conversation before. COVID kind of took us down a little side trail, but more parent education and frankly, student education about what it means to be college and career ready is necessary moving forward. We added this year. The question's always been part of the survey, but because the board goals have shifted a bit this year, I added this question back in for us to review and establish a baseline for and growth goals from, and that is quality activities. So sports clubs, music, etc. 52% of parents agreed or strongly agreed with that statement. Again, have to take COVID into consideration. While 71% of students agreed with that. So it'll be interesting to see as we're able to bring students back in person if these statistics change significantly next year. And then checking back in on Apogee, and we can see that for the most part, people are agreeing that it is a useful way and a useful communication tool for the district. So in review, implications again, talked about school communication and electronic communication being the preferred way, with the exception of Spanish-speaking parents who prefer a phone call. Trying to bump our parent survey participation rate with our Hispanic or Latino parents to be more commensurate with our district demographics of students. 1 in 5 parents disagree or strongly disagree that the school regularly seeks parent input and participation. Not sure if that's a COVID related data point that we'll monitor for next year, or if it's truly declining from years past. We talked about the gap between student and staff voice with motivation. So looking a little bit more carefully around motivation, much like perhaps we did with a caring adult when we realized that perhaps the perception of adults about caring adult behavior, much like maybe motivation, is different, a different operating definition than what students believe is motivating. So exploring that a bit more. Safe and positive learning environment went down a little bit, could be COVID related. Math is still clearly an area of need for us. 75% of students agreed that adults are helping with homework. We talked about the need for more education around college career readiness, and also around parent education around what the academic supports are that are available on each of our campuses in our district. Talked about help for students, social emotional support, and more education around what's available for kids. We talked a lot about caring adults, and then I mentioned that this year we qualified what is it a caring adult could be: a teacher, a coach, an administrator, support staff, or a counselor. We still have a disparity, but again, Bill, to your point, a huge increase over last year as it's been an area of focus for us. And then trusted adults we talked about in terms of needing to continue to grow not only a closer correlation, a closer match between the student and the staff voice, but also parent knowledge. So when 21% of parents indicate that they're not sure, we would want parents to be having those kinds of conversations with their kids, so that in the event that something happens when a student is at school, parents can feel confident that they know that their child has already pre-identified, this is who I would go to if I need help. So there you go. Again, that's not every single question that we ask. I pull those out that are required by LCAP. Required of LCAP, an area of specific focus that relates directly to our own LCAP metrics locally, and or have some pretty statistical gaps that should be explored further. So any questions I can answer for you?
I don't see questions from the board. Thank you for the presentation. I thought it was really interesting. I wasn't sure what the data would show this year with it being such an odd year, but it was very interesting. I'm not seeing questions. Jen, do we have any public comment on the LCAP report?
We do not.
Okay, so with that, I think we will continue on. Thank you very much.
You're welcome,
Lisa. Appreciate it. All right, we will move on to our discussion action section. I think we're going to move through this section, not quickly, but fairly quickly. I guess, for lack of another word. We will move on to 6.1, which is our SPUR E-rate eligible services, I think, master contract.
Lois, can you present? Yeah, you're jumping in. I see you.
You're on mute, Lois.
You're not on mute, but your sound isn't working.
Something is not working. Well,
Check your microphone, Lois. It might have came unplugged or something, because we could hear you earlier. You might even have to restart your computer. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
I mean, if we can't get Lois, I can give a general. I won't be able to speak as eloquently as Lois on this.
I can try and help too.
Okay, so basically, there's a process that allows us to not to go out to bid. We can use somebody else's bid, if you will, legally. And so there's a, for this project, that was our process. Okay, so the school project for utility rate reductions. We went out, we bypassed the bid. We're gonna upgrade. Now this is Brad, where you can help me. We're gonna upgrade the backbone of basically our technology to make sure everything works well. That's Jeremy speak. Now, Brad, can you say it the right way?
Yeah. It's the backbone of our network, right? So this is everything that's not a Wi-Fi antenna, everything behind the scenes, everything in a closet, everything in a little cabinet in every classroom. This is what really does the nuts and bolts of the work for our network. So it's important that we do this every 5 to 6 or 7 years, depending on when things need it. Oh, here's Lois again, but it's important that we refresh this regularly. And so it's time, and this is both for future proofing and for performance related to our one-to-one endeavors and moving forward into the future.
And we get, Lois, are you here? We get E-rate funds. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're here.
Oh, yay. Yes, E-rate will pay for 80% of this, which is lovely. Although the caveat, which I mentioned in the cover sheet, is that this is the totality of our E-rate funds for the next 5 years. So this was such an important project that it was decided that we should just put it all out there and really finish off our infrastructure improvements. That all started, what, 6-7 years ago with the dark fiber.
Dark fiber.
Dark fiber, right.
And really, when we had the discussion, Brad, Lois, and myself discussed this, we said, we've got all this great technology. It's not so great if it doesn't work properly. So we better have all the background stuff in place so that we don't overload. And I don't know the technological terms, but we don't overload our system and things don't work.
Essentially, it means we can accommodate 4,700 students on the network at one time and well into the future.
Do we have any comments or questions from the board? I see. Go ahead, Rich.
So is this what's taking us up to the 10 gig switches and what have you that we were talking about earlier with your predecessor?
So this is taking advantage of that dark fiber in a new way, right? So the dark fiber was way faster than our equipment could go. Okay. Now, and now we're finally taking advantage of that. And it's future proofing, right? So it's faster than we need still, but it's moving into the future. It means that we can accommodate more connections at once. And as we do this and as we grow, and as you know, if you think about every kid has a device in their pocket, as well as every student and staff, multiple devices, it just means we have to really bolster to make sure that we can accommodate and perform well into the future.
Thanks.
Additional discussion? Public comment, Jen, on 6.1?
Nope.
Okay. I think we're ready for a vote then. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that we approve this, yes.
I have a second?
Just to remind you, Stephanie, it's a resolution.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Then.
I approve the resolution.
I'll second.
All right, and then I think we will need a roll call vote. Yes.
Stephanie Ahmad,
Yes.
Rich Carnation,
Yes.
Bill Adams,
Yes.
Eric Heitz,
Yes.
Malinali Lopez.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution passes 5-0. I was distracted because one of my kids was about to come in the door behind me. It's always, uncertain what's going to happen during these meetings. Okay, I think we are moving to item 6.2. We are in, this is also resolution 2021-18, approving the standard agreement with the Department of Rehabilitation, State of California. Who is presenting on this item?
Lois will be.
I will.
Okay, great.
This is something you've seen before. We've actually done this program for 3 years now, and then this will extend it another 3 years. And it seems to be working quite well. It's through the Department of Rehabilitation at the state, and they come in and find work opportunities for some of our special ed students. So it's worked out well. It doesn't take, I think maybe the district pays an extra $100 for mileage for our employee who the salary is paid by this grant, but the grant won't pay the mileage that he performs. So we kick that in, but other than that, there's no cost to the district. And it is a resolution also.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion? I see Eric.
I was just going to get ready to approve, so.
Go for it. Do you want to make a motion?
I'll motion to approve the resolution, yes.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Malinali. And then we will do a roll call vote. Oh, but first we will ask for public comment just to check and make sure. I don't think there's any.
Not that I can see.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Jen.
Stephanie Ahmad,
Yes.
Rich Carnation,
Yes.
Bill Adams,
Yes.
Eric Heitz,
Yes.
Malinali Lopez.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution passes 5-0. Moving on to item 6.3. This is resolution 2021-19. Resolution and decision not to reemploy certificated employees. And Chris Canalake is going to present.
Thank you. This is, the board approved some layoffs on March 12th, part of the right sizing of the district. Never an easy thing to do, but this resolution just brings us to that next step. That we had no requests for hearings, and so now we're preparing the final notices for those staff. It does not preclude us from rehiring folks, because we always keep people on the 39-month rehire list, and we also always hold out hope that we can keep return people back in, but we do have to follow through on these notices, or I recommend we follow through, let's say that.
I see Rich unmuted, so question, or maybe you want to make a motion? No? Okay. Anyone want to make a motion to approve this resolution? I will go ahead and make it. So I move to approve resolution 2021-19. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Bill. And then we'll do a roll call vote. But first, we will quickly check for public comment before we do our roll call.
No public comment.
Thank you, Jen.
Stephanie Ahmad.
No,
yes.
I'm sorry. Hold on just a second, Jen. I was just thinking, Chris, could you explain for those playing at home what advantage, if any, if a former employee who's on this list is on the 39-month hiring list? For example, a position comes open. Do they have preference as opposed to another interested party that would see it from outside the district on EdJoin? What's the effect of being on that 39-month list?
Yes, it does give them preference, and we always keep our 39-month list at hand, and they're ready to rehire those folks when positions open.
Okay, thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jen.
Stephanie Ahmad.
Yes.
Rich Carnation.
Yes.
Bill Adams.
Yes.
Eric Heitz.
Yes.
Malinali Lopez.
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution passes 5-0. Moving item 6.4, this is a public hearing on the district's proposal for contract negotiations with the California School Employees Association, Windsor Chapter 673.
Chris, will you just explain why this is on here, even though we discussed it last time?
I got it. We posted this last time, but we weren't able to get the full process ready in time for the board. In other words, we were waiting on the sunshine from both parties so that we could have them both together. So that, I think, is that what you're looking for, Jeremy? I don't know if there's
Yes, sir.
anything to say about it.
No,
but-
I just wanted to make it clear why we didn't do this one when we did WDEA.
Right. We had hoped to, but sometimes you can't put all the pieces together at the right time.
All right.
So,
Go ahead, Jeremy. What were you going to
no,
say?
just we have to hold a public hearing. I'm not sure if you remember the process, President Ahmad, but
I do not. If there's
Okay.
anything specific I need to do other than taking a vote, please remind me.
we have to give a little bit of time for anybody to make comment
Mhm.
regarding what we're putting forward to negotiate. So usually if there's no comments, you give at least a minute so it can be reflected in the minutes.
All right. And I think I will note the time. I think we opened up at 8:51.
And closed at 8:53 if we're ready to close. There are no public comments.
I'd be interested if President Freeland has any comment on this, or maybe 6.5 or 6.6.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Then I believe we do need to, since this is an action item, we do need to vote to open the hearing, or?
I think it's just open. I think you just
Okay,
open it.
it's just
and then
open.
close it.
Okay, and
Yep,
then we
and
will-
then just reflect it in the minutes.
Okay, so 8:53, the hearing is closed. That is reflected in the minutes. And then we will move to item 6.5, which are the initial openers for contract negotiations with the Windsor Unified School District from the California School Employees Association.
And they are proposing to negotiate Article 3 wages, fair and equitable salary increase.
Okay. Any discussion on this item?
Dr. Canalake, do we simply acknowledge that we have received these from the ever so succinct President Freeland?
Yes, succinct. I believe that's the case. Is Jeremy, help me out here? I'm pretty sure.
Yes, that's the case. You do have to approve our negotiations though. So the next one you approve.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we will be voting on the next item.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think we just acknowledge and we move on.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Any public comment on this item, Jen?
No.
Before we move on. Okay, thanks. So now we're on item 6.6, which is consideration of approval of district's proposal for contract negotiations with CSEA. And this one we do have to vote on. Anything else you want to add, Jeremy, to this item?
No, wages and health and welfare dictated by contract. We open those. And then we just put, just in case, as we're speaking, anything comes up, other articles that we can both agree upon, talking about. That's it.
All right. Thank you.
I'm just curious. It's more of a question because on the previous item, and I just want to make sure we're doing it right, so we didn't get caught. The letter from Brad to us was for Article 3 wages, but then the Sunshine Report, it's Article 3, and it also has Article 5. So is there another one that we're missing, or are we?
No.
I just want to make sure there wasn't something we're missed.
We can each have different openers and then we would discuss them.
Okay. Just didn't want us to have to come back next month and do something if we missed it.
Nope, all good.
Thank you. Thanks for checking. Any other questions or discussion about this item? Doesn't look like it. Any public comment on 6.6?
No.
Thank you, Jen. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve this, yes.
Any second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's 5-0. We are done with our discussion action section. So we'll move on to routine information. response to board community requests. Anyone have anything?
Yeah, just real quick, the Booster Club that supports a lot of the resources for the Windsor High School is looking for nominees for their officers. So if you're interested, you can reach out to the Booster Club president, Dan Jones, and give a nomination for any of the open offices that they'll be voting on at their next meeting.
Thank you. Sorry, trying to manage multiple windows. Anyone else have anything? Okay, I have one item. I'm not sure if it could go here. It could go under items of general interest, but I will just do it here. I attended with our superintendent and with Molinari, the climate summit this past Saturday, not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before. And we talked about some of the things that the district is doing. We talked about our solar project. We talked about things that we would like to do and work more on, waste reduction. We talked a little bit about electrification of our bus fleet and what that would look like. The town council representative at the summit discussed potentially sharing a sustainability officer with the district, which we found very interesting. And that's something that maybe we can follow up on in our May meeting that we have coming up, because that would kind of create the scale that we need to make that position possible. So that's the plan going forward. If you have anything to add from that event.
That was succinct summary.
Yes, thank you. I do have a different item.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to share that I'm really excited that 2 of my colleagues from Sonoma State are coming to our DLAC meeting this Thursday to discuss basically the college experience and resources that Sonoma State has. And as we heard from Lisa Saxon, that we have more work to do in having students be college and career ready. So I'm really excited that the chair of our faculty, Dr. Reeder, is coming, and he's fully bilingual, so he can actually give his presentation in both English and Spanish. And then also my colleague from the Chicano and Latino Studies Department, Dr. Malpica, is coming to give a bilingual presentation as well.
That's very exciting. Thanks for sharing. Anything else? I'll move. Oh, Rich.
Yeah, I don't know if Trustee Adams, if he wants to give everybody kind of a little update on our meeting we had with the folks on the downtown, the Civic Center.
Oh, wow, that seems like forever ago, Rich. You go ahead.
It was.
Well, that's what I was going to rely on your memory more than mine. Here, how about if I some of the high points? And Superintendent Decker was with us as well when we were. So just as an FYI, a lot of people around town are talking about the Civic Center and their pros, cons, ups, downs. We love you, we hate you, and everything else in between. The proponent of the project went and brought to us their new update after they took all the community feedback they got from a series of meetings that they had, and they've put together some new things, taking into consideration everybody's feedback. The project that they've given us, to me, looked significantly improved and something that looked really nice as it relates to the school district and how it's important to us if that thing goes forward. The proponent has also come up with, and Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, but helping us with moving our district office, having the adequate amount of meeting spaces and what have you, and then also are making some allowances that Superintendent Decker was pushing them on to, we're working with them on to get us meeting spaces where right now the district's having to rent other locations that we have to spend a lot of money to host all of our staff. And part of this agreement that going forward would be that they would provide a certain number of opportunities where the school district can use their facilities for free, to help us do our job, creating a wonderful environment for our kids. And Bill and Jeremy, feel free to jump in.
Sure. I'll jump in on that one, Rich. Just I asked them if they would commit to 5 days free in their large conference room, because we don't really have a space besides our gymnasiums that can accommodate our staff, everybody. And with their conference room, they could potentially accommodate all of our people. And they said they would write it into the agreement that they would do 5 days for free each year. And
I think
talked
for
about,
clarity, Jeremy,
go ahead.
It's not their conference, it's their ballroom. They're going to have
Yes.
one of those hotel ballrooms with the big dividers where it's, you know, I don't know, hundreds, if not thousands of square feet. So I thought that was good. I mean, substantially larger than, for example, the Firth Center is a quite large space that we've used repeatedly. I think also I was pleased that they agreed actually to help us broker a communication with them and the town about the 50,000 square foot Civic Center building, going to be back in the corner where the oil tanks are now, behind the district office, where the district is slated to get the 3rd floor and 10 or 15,000 square feet up there. They seem to have been quite adaptive, and I thought that was helpful. It was good. They had reached out to us, I think, realizing that the school district and its community, its connection with students can be a help to get this Civic Center project done. Again, as a piece that the town has talked with Rich and I and Jeremy about as an interim, once they start to move in, the school, the town is interested in temporarily refitting and using parts of Windsor Creek to move the town police department and the town offices that are in where Eric went to middle school there 1,000 years ago, and move it over to Windsor Creek, use that, and then once the Civic Center joint building with the library and the town and the school district will be done. So I think they have a sense of moving forward. This is the same developer who developed the Montage property up in Healdsburg. I asked him a question because I said the perspective of having a number like $4 million in water penalties and crafting plans or promise to build a fire station and then say, no, I'll just give you a few $1 million to build one. And they're going to address those. I think that there's some media and public relations work that they could have done to better explain when they took the time talking to us. And I think they're going to do that. So I found it very helpful. And we spent, I think, Rich, an hour and a half with them Friday about 3 weeks ago. So
the thing that I liked, one of the things I liked about it was that they really did take to heart a lot of the public comments that people had. One of the ones that stuck out in my mind was their preliminary, what used to be a road kind of between the green and their process, and they've now made a promenade, which, I think is going to be, I think a lot of people in our town, when they actually see it, will be pleasantly surprised with the not accommodation, but just the refinement, I guess maybe is a better word, of what they've done. I do think that the reason why I also wanted to bring this up, other people on the board are caught up on this, but I think a lot of the community keeps losing track of our district. This is a big thing for us. We don't have money to do a district office. It's just not the way the funding for the school works. So however this can get facilitated, it is a big thing. It's not just one issue. It's a complete cornucopia of things that all work together that will, I think, will be better for our town. I mean, there's a long ways to go on this of whether it even pencils out. There's a whole lot of decisions to be made, but as of right now, they've been very accommodating, I think, to the schools, and I think to our citizens that and their feedback.
Yeah, I think this is certainly an area, and I shared with the board in closed session on a different topic. In my day job representing fire districts, we have a matter that's in front of the town council tomorrow night, and I had spoken with the vice mayor about possibly moving the agenda. I was not calling as a member of the school board, and he raised the issue about school board issues, and I mentioned to President Ahmad that it's very likely that the town, even though they have distractions and bigger crises, is interested in reprising our regular joint meeting. And so clearly this development project is one, but we have a number of overlapping areas as the two large government entities supporting the community and the town. And so I would hope that we can help them be able to do multiple things simultaneously. And one of those is we need to have a regular public conversation between the town governance and the school district governance on behalf of all our constituents. So I was pleased about that, and it sort of relates to this.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the update. Very informative, very exciting also. And I hope and expect that that will move forward. Thank you for raising it, Bill. Appreciate it. All right, 7.2 board correspondence. Anything there? I think we will probably not. I think we covered a lot in 7.1. So we'll go to 7.3 staff association reports. Do we have anything? See Pete Stefanisco unmuted. Go for it.
Yeah, not really a report, but at our site rep meeting last week, there was an overwhelming appreciation for CSEA and over the last few months and over the last year. You guys have been incredible. From what you've done in technology, food service, transportation, people pitching in, just really supporting students and staff. And so they really wanted me to let you know. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
Yay, CSEA.
And I would thank you, Pete, for raising that. I would echo that. I was one scratching my head to think when the state legislature said, hey, for the 2021 school year, thinking we were immediately going back to school, transportation, food service, and custodial would be essential so that those wouldn't get cut. And there was a lot of food service, but I will particularly not highlight one or the other. I think technology and Brad and the crew, great. But really folks in transportation and custodial, I think pivoted well and showed a lot of team spirit. And thank you, Brad, for your leadership in working with folks and how, everybody had a job, and that job turned out it was maybe a little different. And I think that showed tremendous flexibility in our fellowship as the Windsor School District community, that everybody pitched in this weird year in the way that they needed to. So if you could, at least from this trustee, pass that to your members, because I think I'm familiar in other districts that was not the case necessarily. And maybe there was either bad blood or friction or whatever. That seemed pretty seamless. And thank you to you and your leadership and your members for that.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you, everybody. I will pass it on. Our chapter meeting is tomorrow night. So hopefully we'll be having as good a turnout as we've had at all the last chapter meetings, and make sure that the word is spread that everybody was appreciated what we did. But I got to go kudos right back to the teachers, man. They had to pivot on a dime to do swivel teaching, and I don't even know all of the linguistics of it. All I know is I need more desks. But no, and it's great to have the students back. I wish there was more. So no report otherwise.
Thank you, Brad. We love all the love that's being shared. Yeah. Chris, did you have a comment that you wanted to make?
I was just going to say that it is, it's been a remarkable stress on everybody just getting through the pandemic and what we've been through. And I think our labor partners have been just amazing as far as the flexibility and the willingness to kind of look at things from different angles. And it's been amazing. Everybody.
Okay, moving to item 7.4, items of general interest. Don't think we will have anything here. Unresolved policies, 7.5.
Jen, can you give a quick update? I'm sorry. Jen and I spoke about this. We're going to transition the management of board policies to Jen. And okay. She said, what did you tell me, Jen? The different options available.
Well, one of the problems has been that CSBA have transitioned to a new platform. And in doing that, they have transferred all of our board policies over to that new platform. And unfortunately, as we are a little behind in updating some of our policies, those policies have been updated for us. And therefore, Lisa and Lois and the cabinet that worked, hard on getting a new version of those policies that we wanted, has not yet been incorporated into that. And I've got to say, CSBA have been extremely unhelpful. And I haven't been able to get any help from them about where we go from here, what we do, etc. And Lisa and I have talked about, how we might get over that little hump, and Jeremy as well, over that little hump to get us those policies updated. But moving forward, I think we've agreed that we're going to take our policies off the CSBA platform where we normally store them. We still will have to use CSBA as far as updating and that kind of thing, but we will bring our policies over to Board Docs because they are very helpful. They will help us do the whole transition, and it will be a much quicker way of updating. I literally will be able to just update and submit our policies onto our Board Docs platform as we do them. It should be much quicker, much smoother. Lisa, do you have anything to say?
I just wanted to comment that I think the difficulty, just to clarify, has really been with Gamut, not necessarily CSBA. So I just wanted to point that out. It's Gamut who is the holding tank vendor that we've been using for our board policies that has been the challenge that we're trying to overcome. And yes, bless Jen, she, as you'll recall, or maybe you don't, for those of you who were on the policy subcommittee then, she inherited that one huge packet that we did when Donna transitioned her, if you guys remember that. And then COVID happened, and then they just kept stacking up. And so, the learning curve and then the difficulties with Gamut have just made it a bit of a challenge. So we, again, have a packet ready, and we're just trying to get to the hurdle of getting it camera ready for you all so that you can actually read it and make some decisions about it. So hopefully very soon.
Thanks, Lisa. Sorry, it was Gamut. I'm just not familiar enough with all of the terms yet. But just so you know, I'm part of a group of superintendent secretaries around Sonoma County. There are 40 of us, and this has happened, to all of us, and they have all struggled with it. It has not been a smooth or a good transition at all.
I think Bill has a comment.
Understood. Yeah, I did see Bill's hand. Go ahead.
So I can get looking at the camera ready stack. Do you imagine that as we open the school year in mid-August, Jen, is that a reasonable deadline to get this transition over to Board Docs, or is it at the turn of the year in January? I mean,
I would like to get it for August, if at all possible. Yes.
It would be one, if in my mind, if there's expertise or outside talent or someone we need to bring in and possibly hire, working with you and Lisa and Brad, I don't know what it involves. I certainly would urge you to think about catching up. We do have some infusion of one-time money and whatnot. If it's a pivot thing and it's a one-time injection, rather than you all having to try and figure it out, if we can get help, let us know and we can get that. Because I would like us to perhaps think really, if it's doable, to start the 21-22 school year to the extent whatever it means that we're up to date, even if we just bless whatever people have done for us, but we're up to date, right? And we're not behind. So that's my only 2 cents on that. If we need outside help, let's invest in outside help if that's what we need to get it done.
Thanks, Bill. I have spoken with Jeremy about that and with Lisa, and we have a plan.
Does that include not paying Gamut? That kind of always gets their attention.
It does, and well, in a way. We got to use them for certain parts, but they have multiple levels of membership. And so
so we're going to go to the bronze level, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is definitely something wrong though, because even just all of the board policies that you saw on the sexual harassment, sexual assault PowerPoint, it took forever to get all of those to be able to get in, to get, find the policies and load them. And I don't know what was going on with Gamut, but I feel Jen's pain.
Yeah. Well, at least we're getting to the bottom of it. It's always frustrating when something like that happens, but I think we all support getting those policies updated and accessible. So whatever we need to do to make it happen. And, you know, Rich, I saw you unmute on 7.4 and I was wondering if I skipped or if you just unmuted. I don't know.
I must have pressed it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I hadn't skipped over you. No, it's totally fine. So 7.6 is future school board items. 7.7 is future school board agenda items calendar. I don't think we have anything there. So with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion for us to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Sure, I'll second the motion to adjourn.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Aye. All right, 5-0. We are done.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Thank
Thank you all.
Ava, are you starting your AP test? Oh, she's gone.
I want to know what Julian's been eating all night long. I got to have some of that. Anything that keeps somebody.
We are just reminding us that